just staring at me. I'm trying so hard to make sense of this. Tidal waves, all of my thoughts are washed away again.
Alright, so for the guitar recording of this little mini song, we are basically using two different setups because we want to get a little bit of variety and width in the mix later on. So basically we're using my PRS standard guitar, which is a lovely guitar, I just like to play it. And with this guitar we're going into a little boost pedal, just to change the gain structure of the Soldano amp that we are using slightly to make it a little bit more, I would say, creamy sounding and not so crumbly sounding. This then also goes into the cabinet, which is in the live room, where Patrick will later on show you the microphone situation. Other than that, for the second track, because we're double tracking, as I said, we're using Patrick's Ibanez guitar, which is going into an Engel amp and then also into the cup in the live room. Yeah. A few aspects that I want to talk about is starting out with, I'm using a Tortex Dunlop pick. It's the 0.88 millimeter pick. So it's not like the thickest pick. It's also not the lightest pick, but I just like to have a little bit of flexibility because in this case, we are down tuning the guitars. I think we are in C sharp, but in a drop tuning. We're using heavier strings to have more like tuning stability, but still, if you're digging in a little harder, this will affect the intonation of the notes you're playing. So if you're going really hard, the note might go like too sharp and then bounce back to being in tune. So this is something you maybe want to consider when recording guitars, especially with like lower tuned stuff. Another thing is when you listen to the song, the mini song, it's basically combined of two parts. The first part is like a fast palm muted riff, and the other part are like held out long power chords or like chords in general. And when tuning a guitar, you should really think about what you are actually tuning. So in a fast setting, when you're going like, you want to tune the guitar to the attack. So you want to look at the tuner, and while you're plucking the string, you want to react to the initial attack and tune it to that point, because that's the point that you're going to hear in the riff. Whereas in the held out chords, you want to make sure that the note, when it's ringing out, is in tune. Because it's natural for a stringed instrument that the note, the initial attack will bounce a little bit sharp, but it's just a split second. So you want to make sure that the intonation, especially when you're playing chords and not single notes, is really in tune over a long period of time. So I think this covers basically the whole guitar recording, and Patrick will now show you the whole microphone and cabinet situation.
We are now in the recording room where we set up our two amp cabinets connected, one to each amp head in the control room, and Marc will also be sitting with me in the control room when he plays his parts. So first of all, we have better communication, we don't need talkback microphones, and he's not sitting in front of an amp screaming at him while playing his parts. He will hear the actual recorded guitars instead of a mix of amp and headphones here in the room. We are using two different cabinets for the same reason as we are using two different amp heads and two different guitars, just to get two slightly different guitar sounds so that we get more width when we are going to mix those two guitars. Let's talk about miking up a guitar cab. I know that many engineers take dynamic microphones very close to the speaker and maybe use multiple microphones right in front of the speaker to blend different characters together to get one big guitar sound. I have a couple of problems with this approach. First of all is, if you are very close to the sound source, you get the so-called proximity effect of microphones, which means that you get an excessive buildup of low end and rumble that you can avoid by just going a little bit further away with the microphone to whatever you are recording. The second thing is that if you are very close to a speaker that you want to record, you are really like zooming in onto one part, one aspect of the sound of that speaker. If you are more to the center, you get a brighter sound. If you're more to the outside, you get a darker sound, and everything in between. But if you go a little bit further away with your microphone, you are capturing the integrity of the sound and not just one tiny little part. And if you use multiple microphones to, let's say, combine a brighter tone with a darker tone, you may end up getting some phase issues when you combine two microphones that are recording the same source. By just using one microphone, you just don't have that issue at all. I also kind of like to use large diaphragm condenser microphones on electric guitars because they have like a finer resolution and a little bit more finesse to their sound. We are also using a different microphone on each cab to furthermore get different sounds for each guitar. For microphone placement, I like to start around 25 centimeters away from the speaker and pointing roughly between center and outside of the speaker. This gives me an overall balanced sound. If I feel that I need much more low end, I can go a little bit closer. If I feel that I need more brightness, I can go even a little bit further away or maybe point slightly more towards the center of the speaker. For this recording, we didn't use any extra processing like EQ or compression on the way into the computer so that we can show whatever we did to the guitars in the mix decomposition video. That's pretty much it regarding recording. Now it's up to Marc to deliver good performance so that we get the right sound we want.
But just